If you were to ask me what my earliest or first Godzilla film was, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to accurately answer that question. Godzilla movies were a constant in my household since I was born. My two older brothers would spend Saturday afternoons watching the Creature double feature back in Providence, Rhode Island during the 70s. So even as early as 3, I can say I knew only about Godzilla and may have seen him on TV from time to time. But what was the first film in which I was impacted? That would be Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. Yeah, so here on my channel, I've done a lot of Hedora-related figure reviews and even stated how much I like the film. I figured now this was the time to talk about the source of it all with this merchandise and how it is a standout of the series, whether you love it or hate it. For me, my first time seeing it was likely 1977, one weekend afternoon. The TV was on, as it usually was, early in the day, and my brothers had the channel set on an odd and unsettling-sounding movie. A woman cooed a song about Earth, and I was introduced to a monstrous creature appearing as a massive blobby beast with mesmerizing vertical red eyes. It shapeshifted and killed people, all while providing Godzilla with one of the biggest challenges up to that point. I can only recall in my young memory specific scenes that were burned in my brain of this feature, all of which focused on the monster itself. The flying and perfect forms that were prominently used. Hedora hits the pavement so hard that he begins to leak his own fluids. Godzilla damaging the perfect form's eye, again oozing its oil-like fluids. And finally, Godzilla removing 2 white orbs from Hedora's defeated body. An enigma, as I've heard they were either eggs or eyes. I'd go with eggs, since his eyeballs looked all red, but anyways. I was unable to recall much else, and when I rewatched the film on VHS in my teens, I was surprised how much I didn't remember, despite its sometimes harsh imagery. The movie's plot is fairly straightforward. Pollution has become increasingly concerning in the industrial Fuji City when a massive sea creature is shown to lurk in the filthy waters of Suruga Bay, attacking boats and feeding on the chemicals that spill into the sea. Dr. Yano and his son Ken decide to investigate when they encounter this monstrous tadpole entity firsthand and suffer wounds from contact with it. This leads to their investigation learning that the strange being dubbed Hedora could be an alien in origin and has hitchhiked its way to Earth because of the rich pollution humanity has introduced into our ecosystems. As it feeds, it merges with its many species to become larger and more terrifying forms. Ken, a fan of Godzilla, dreams Godzilla is coming to save the Earth, and practically willing it true, he arrives, each time taking on one of Hedora's recently evolved forms. But the fights do nothing as Godzilla's trademark atomic breath is useless and his punches do very little. Finally, Dr. Yano devises a plan to dry out Hedora to dust with the giant electron panels and manages to get the government to construct them on the foot of Mount Fuji. For some unknown reason, Hedora arrives there after taking numerous human lives, faces Godzilla one last time where humankind and the King of the Monsters work together to defeat the greater threat. Even after vanquishing the monster, the possibility of another remains as long as humankind continues to abuse the Earth. This is a strange entry in the Godzilla series of the Showa era, perhaps the strangest of them all. Whereas Godzilla's Revenge made the kaiju a figment of Ichiro's active imagination, this film is like an ecological statement made in a 70s psychedelic art house style. Director Yoshimitsu Banno flexes avant-garde with his choice to pepper the film with animated sequences, pop art style visuals, and lava lamp-induced hallucinations. The film feels like watching a love child of a Godzilla film with a 70s after-school special about the dangers of drugs. The music ranges from acid jazz rock to crazed blaring horns rattling whenever Godzilla enters the stage. Gone are the Ifukube ostinato cues and the orgies of city destruction. Godzilla is utilized in a strange fashion, a hybrid of silly and somber. He clearly is a hero in young Ken's mind and even expects the King of the Monsters to come in and clean up Hedora's mess, which he does. In this film, the cast largely ignores the fact that the giant radioactive kaiju is just as dangerous as his adversary, which not only places him in full 70s superhero status, but also adds the same surreal tone the movie has overall. Indeed, Godzilla does show up just to confront Hedora, without causing any real collateral damage to property. His actions are more humanized, even mimicking Ken's scrappy fighting postures and slapping his hand over his brow when the humans' technology fails to work against Hedorah. And of course, the crazy moment where Godzilla must give chase to Hedorah and propels himself with his atomic breath and takes to the air, now immortalized by a Bandai posing series figure. Hedorah is by far the most horrific of Godzilla's opponents because his handiwork is shown directly affecting the people, not just the cities we inhabit. Whereas Hedorah, or well, just Hedorah at that point, would rack up on the property damage with his erratic gravity beam destruction, you never see the casualties. But in this film, body horror is on the menu tonight, particularly the grisly deaths that Hedorah's presence causes to humanity. Bodies are smothered in toxic sludge, disfiguring acidic burns that scar Ken and his father early on, and the various shots of skeletal remains from the corrosive mists that the flying form spews in its flyby. Hedorah's overall film environment is somber and dour. The color palette feels dirty and far from ideal. Suruga Bay is depicted as a cesspool of trash and pollution, and the city itself is seedy and industrial. The design of this monster is unlike any previous contender. Rather than being some mutated dinosaur or overgrown animal, the Smog monster ranges its sludgy form that mimics tadpoles, mud skippers, and a flying form that is an amalgamation of a horseshoe crab and a manta ray, giving off UFO vibes. His final perfect form, towering over Godzilla, is a shapeless, barely bipedal mountain of pollutants, with long tendril-like arms and dangling drips, like a nightmarish weeping willow. Adding to the haunting forms, the vertical red eyes remain the mainstay carryover from form to form, allegedly referencing female genitalia, according to the director Yoshimitsu Banno. The overall effect is a creature so very alien and haunting. Hedorah is not overtly aggressive like Godzilla's previous enemies. With a bizarre gurgling sound, the kaiju seems more pensive and observant of his opponent, with both spending most of their battles making calculated moves against one another, rather than charging every time. Despite this, the arsenal he possesses is perhaps the most lethal of any Toho kaiju thus far. Acidic mist, toxic sludge, bullets, and a destructive crimson eye beam are all used with great effect against Godzilla, causing physical harm on him. A running injury theme occurs when Ken's father, Hedorah, and Godzilla all suffer the same eye injury, and Ken and Godzilla also suffer burns to their right hands. The main cast is mostly focused on young Kenshiro, who, with his stoic scientist father Dr. Yano, studied the arrival and the habits of the alien entity that arrived at Earth via passing comet to feed on our harmful byproducts at the cost of physical harm. The family is rounded out by their mother, balanced yet concerned for their men in her circle. Like the theme of the film, the remaining human cast are trash. While Ken's family are morally on the right side, the obnoxious uncle, Yukio, comes across as a directionless teen looking to have a cause to fight. He spends most of the film hanging out with Ken and with a local nightclub singer named Miki. These two exhibit the pitfalls of teen idealism, the lack of a plan outside of protest in abstract ways. In one particular scene, Yukio appears to have a psychedelic hallucination while quote-unquote drinking at said local club as he watches Miki perform. He seems fairly aloof and foolish, with the latter trait serving his undoing towards the third act. Miki fares better and mostly serves the film with her performing the infamous Save the Earth vocal track, done in the art style of a James Bond opening to a less sexy degree, all while rocking an ecological-themed bodysuit. She offers little else, and it is unclear if she and Yukio are an item or not, even if she is constantly in his presence. His death has zero impact on both her and Ken, suggesting they found him to be slightly obnoxious as I did. In all, the film is worth a look, if for nothing the villain itself, who exudes a mystique and creepiness elevated by the horrific effects it has on people and Godzilla. At the time of its release, this was deemed too experimental and damaging to the brand, and it was considered the potential death knell for the series. However, time has turned the opinion around on many, and Banno's work is admirable. The overall atmosphere and tone may feel dated in execution, despite the message still carrying relevance to this day. Depending on the type of Godzilla film you prefer, this will either be an intriguing stylistic novelty or completely repel you. For me, it's a standout for its daring attempts to freshen the brand for the then waning audiences. The monster, the human casualties, the bizarre choices in delivering the message all add up to a fascinating experience. That's my take on Godzilla vs. Hedorah, aka Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. I have a few other film retros on the channel, so please give those a look as well. I appreciate your views, likes, and comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for future reviews. This is 4Green. Until next time.